As you know, we love to look at whatever Larry Kudlow has said recently. He really outdid himself in a new CNBC appearance. He says that the V-shaped economic recovery is here. Let's take a listen.
The bulk of the evidence says we are still on track for a very significant upward move, and it's a V-shaped recovery. I don't know. Home builders report was smashing. Retail sales, the job story, weekly unemployment claims, continuing claims have come down quite a bit. The Apple Mobility Index, new business applications, all this is pointing to a V-shaped recovery.
Well, you know, I have no words for that, Ryan. I mean, there's the amount of cherry picking that you have to do to create a V-shaped recovery. I actually, a friend of mine, Joe Weisenthal from Bloomberg, he wrote in his newsletter this morning, quote, "Bottom line, there are a lot of charts that look like a V, but in reality, they don't show anything close to a snapback to normal. It's all wish casting. It's all just trying to juice the market." And Kudlow's been doing this from the very beginning. February, he says the virus has been contained. Then recently he says that, there's not going to be a second wave and that the current uptick is actually just a continuation of the first wave, even though he said previously that it's over and that we can It's like, make up your mind. And all of this is just gaslighting for one reason. They don't want to spend any more money. The only reason that they're doing any of this is that if they have a narrative that the economy has come back, Congress doesn't have to spend more money. President Trump and the White House don't have to put together any more economic stimulus packages, and everybody can just be fine. And they're ignoring. I mean, I really encourage everyone to go read Joe's piece from this morning. He has the perfect breakdown of a chart showing massive decline in manufacturing index. Sure, the home building index happens to be there. So we still have several million, tens of millions of people on unemployment. God knows how many small businesses are going to close. Only 29% of survey respondents, quote, see a better economic future than they do right now. 70% say that they don't. So, you know, V-shaped recovery, I guess.
Yeah, and he gives away the game when he says, I don't know.
Yeah.
Actually, he doesn't know.
Yes.
But the fact that he's willing to say he doesn't know indicates that he's not terribly confident about what he's saying there. And that is because of the pandemic. If we had the same numbers, if we had the same chart that every other country has right now, that cases were coming down and the economy is opening back up in a safe way, you could see a lot of people who are furloughed come right back to work, and you could see huge gains, because when you have those huge collapses, then that gives you the opportunity to have these massive gains. If you look early in the Obama administration, when the stimulus came out,
big stock, right,
just flying back up because you lost so much to begin with. But if you're continuing to see what he called flare-ups, but what is actually a raging forest fire of infections surging around the country, then you're not going to be able to have the kind of economic activity you need to get what he's talking about on a sustained basis.
And I don't know why that is such a difficult concept for people to understand, which is that, look, yes, the deaths are down. That's a good thing, which is that the majority of the new cases are people who are young. That does not mean that it's tolerable to governments and to other people in order to allow just normal life to proceed as a way of business. Would you have a business if you knew that you were going to be able to be spreading coronavirus around and that person could spread it to somebody? No. Which is that we have to take some reasonable measure of precaution as a society. And that is going to have an impact on consumer activity. Already, Arizona shut down all the bars. California shut down bars. Texas shut down the bars. Those bars aren't coming back for at least a month. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of economic activity. Same thing in terms of retail sales, all these other ways of life. Who knows how much longer this is going to go? And this is why everybody advocated for taking it very seriously in the coming months at the time. And if, the lockdowns, who knows if it was a good idea, but if they were going to do it, they might as well have come up with something. And yet, I flew recently. Nobody took my temperature. Nobody looked at anything. Nobody's asking where I was. Nobody's looking contact tracing or anything like that. I have no idea if who has come into contact with coronavirus and all that. Contact tracing is on a state-by-state basis. It's just been an absolute failure all around. And all of that leads to one thing: less economic activity. And I've said before, I think the economic situation will look like a Nike swoosh, but with a squiggly swoosh at this point, where it's like, well, we're going to start going down and then maybe back up a little bit. And at the end of the day, only Congress can make you whole. That's it. And they refuse to do it. I mean, right now, Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, what's the plan? Nothing. They're both sitting around. I think they're fundraising. That's all they're doing right now.
And people dying at a lower rate, that's great. But that's not comforting to people who have an idea of what the disease remains like. If people not dying meant that there were treatments that made it like a common cold and you suffered for a few days and then you're back on your feet, then people say, you know what, I'll take that risk. I'm young, I'll go for it. What people are going through is horrifying.
Yeah, it's bad.
You know, getting onto a ventilator and getting off of it is better than dying. But it's an absolutely horrifying experience where you're having these paranoid hallucinations, and it is leaving people with chronic problems, chronic heart problems, chronic
10 years from now,
lung problems.
We'll know what exactly this thing does.
And we'll be litigating what Trump meant by "we'll cover your coronavirus treatment," because just the same, like we're still litigating. Covering 9/11 first responders treatment.
Great point.
From 20 years ago. So this is, this is not something that anybody wants to get, even if the chances of them dying are going down, which, back to Kudlow's point, means they're going to engage in less economic activity. They're going to be trying not to go to work. They're going to be trying to socially distance. They're not going to be traveling as they're going to try to avoid planes and trains and other areas where they're indoors with people. And that means less economic activity.
And just to give you a perfect example, let's put up Stephen Moore, who's a good friend of Larry Kudlow, by the way. Let's put up his tweet there on the screen. He says, "My message to the White House is if you want to lose the election, extend the $600 unemployment benefit." Of course, what he's saying there is that the unemployment benefit is causing wage arbitrage and competition and driving up wages, making it harder for businesses to rehire. And again, I accept some truth to that. But what is Stephen Moore saying in response? Which is that I agree, $600 unemployment, if the national strategy is to get people back to work, doesn't necessarily make the most amount of sense. But then bolster their wages on the front end. Make sure that there's the Mitt Romney's Patriot Pay idea about essential workers, making sure that if you get back to work, that you're going to have some sort of assistance. If the national policy of this government is going to have people get back to work, then let's act like it. You see Stephen Moore saying anything like that? Nothing, right? I mean, what they ideologically are opposed to is relief spending. That's it. He even said here on this show, quote, "We know government spending cannot increase economic growth." It's astounding. I mean, who says it? He says that in the year 2020. I was so shocked at the time it barely registered. I watched it over and I was like, oh my God. You can go back and check the tape. It's incredible. It's just, this is all just about one thing, which is not spending money, not giving people relief. These people are going to drive the Republican Party into the ground with Trump. And it's just amazing that he continues to allow them to just go on TV and say these nonsense things. But my rant is over. We'll have more Rising for you after this.